I'm thinking I might do a little carving. Not that whole picture, just the palm tree. I've been looking at the line drawing I made for my photograph and pictures on the internet, drawings on the internet, and there are virtually no realistic drawings of a sable palm on the internet. There are some, but so stylized, the trunk, that there's nothing there that says palm. And I'm looking at my photograph, and I made a couple of quick sketches, and it's amazingly difficult to make a realistic drawing of that. Something that appears so simple is actually so detailed. It's mind-boggling. My mind is boggled. Boy, is that complex. I've drawn flowers before and other trees, and there's a formula how they grow. And once you know that, you can follow it all around and do it. This thing sort of has rules, but it's like nobody wants to follow the rules. I thought I would see more of the order of the thing if I got out there and drew it from life, but it's actually just proving to be more disordered than I thought. I'm beginning to think I couldn't even trace those things. I got a little more reality on them, being there with them and trying to draw them to help me out with the fronds and the bark. It's just so random. They're not following the rules. I can't make hiding a hair out of the thing. So I'll be working on that some more to make a carvable metaphor that reads nicely as a wood carving, but also has a realistic portrait of the palm tree. I love the palm trees. See, that top just gets to be a real mess. I'm happy with what I got for the trunk. See, the key to these palm fronds is every element up there, every leaf up there is coming out of a single central branch, and they all radiate out from that in a very specific pattern. Now, where the problem comes in is which way they're hanging and the view that gives you of that. Now, if you've got one hanging just right, you get the perfectly symmetrical view. So that's easy. You go boom, 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 boom. But if you're looking at it from the side, they all seem to droop this way. But because of the tensions between the leaf elements and the main stem, they have different angles of drooping. And then when you go straight on, they look like they get very confusing. But even there, if you imagine the line of that central core, you can just drape everything off of that, no matter which way it's going. So that is the key to creating a metaphor for all these fronds that will accurately represent them and yet still have some order by which you can understand them, even though that will never show in most cases. Look at that, that's beautiful. So it's basically like that central stem is the branch, and then all those other parts of the frond is either branches or leaves coming out from that. But depending on the location of that central core piece and which direction it's pointing and which angle you're looking at, the leaves are going to droop in different ways. Like the ones that are going straight up, if they're young and fresh, most of the leaves will be pointing straight up too, more or less. Whereas the older ones that are drooping, they're going to try to reach up a little bit, but then they droop. So you got that curve happening, and sometimes it becomes even a fold. And then if you got any that are really down, they're just falling off to the sides. So interesting. Interesting construction. I think that's kind of unique in the plant world. It's almost like it's a leaf that's been broken into parts instead of being one big leaf, because we do have those plants down here that have those huge leaves. I mean, you can almost sleep in them, but this one's been split into fronds, into, I don't know what you would call those individual pieces. Whatever you call those, it's been split into those. Anyway, just contemplating the idea. So back to the adventure of drawing these palm fronds. As you can see up there, it looks like quite a disorganized mess, and that's what we've got to deal with. But when we come underneath it and look up, we see that each of those bunches of leaves are coming off a stem. And the stem is called a petiole, and the leaves are actually called leaflets. So we'll just call them stems and leaves. But as I was saying, if you look at one of those leaves, and if they weren't all separated, that'd just be one big leaf. And you can see here, it starts this way, and then as they move up the stem, they come further and further out. Now, a couple of things affect the way these hang. One is the angle that you're viewing it at. See, as I change the angle, it's a totally different thing. The other is age. The ones way up at the top are very firm and young, and they go straight up. But these ones down here have been hanging around for a while. And as you can see, they're drooping quite a bit. In the stem, they droop, and then all this stuff droops more, just like humans. We droop more as we get older. Now, this is a different tree, but it's got the same characteristics. And what I want to show you here is the leaves come out upward. They don't just go straight out flat from the stem. Less so on the sable palm. This is a different palm. On the sable palm, they tend to come out and curve out like this very quickly. But also you note these young ones, they're going straight up, whereas again the older ones are drooping. So if you take into account the stem when you're carving or drawing this, and how these leaflets come out of the stem, both based on age and gravity, then what seems to be a totally confusing mess actually becomes sensible. Here's back on the sable. And you can see how the leaflets come out of the stem right near the end. We're at the very end of it here. Up further, they're a little flatter. And when they first come out, they're actually all bunched up together. So they spread as they come out way up top there. Another detail to point out on the sable palm is that each of these branches, these petioles, actually come out of two of these bases. But you see up there, there's two of them coming together to form that petiole or stem. Now here, I've cut these all off, so now they've been individuated. But if we look at a tree that I haven't trimmed so closely, these continue to exist as double stems even when the leaves are all gone off them and they're dead. And eventually they get knocked off by animals or fall off somehow or other, or just decay away and become wrapped neatly around the base. And that might give it a more regular pattern if it is not interfered with by some human cutting them. Now back to the fronds, something I wanted to point out, and this is a very small beginner tree, but it is the sable palm. You can tell by the leaf, so this gives us a nice chance to look at the leaf close up. You can see that stem, it's got quite a round inner surface, a concave inner surface, and that's where these leaves are rising out of, and that they're very tight when they're young, and then of course they spread out as they get older. Yeah, that gives you a good view of it, how the structure is up there. Maybe I can get in at one of those brand new ones. Well, there's a pretty new one. This one right here. And you can see that's just straight up and fanning out. We're on the back side of it. And here's the stem of it coming up here. This is the stem. And you see how it's curving out? Okay, to here. So everything else is coming out of that. And you see how tight it all is when it's young. And then that eventually spreads out to get much bigger. And here, this is the heart. This is heart of palm. This is where your heart of palm comes from. And if you kill that, you killed the tree. So if you eat heart of palm salad, you just killed the tree. Because the whole thing will go. It can't come back from that. But you can see those are coming out straight. And here's the center one. Oh man, there it is. There it is. Okay, here's the center one. Hasn't opened yet. And you can see it's all wrapped up. All those leaves are in there, but they're all wrapped up. Just appears to be a center stalk. But that will spread out and become like this, and then spread out all its leaflets from there. That's a beautiful shot. Okay, there's a very young one on the inside and how it's spreading. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. I forgot I had that shorty there that I can get to the top. So that's the big picture. And now we will try to do some drawings based on those understandings of this particular tree.